We are going to study the security, the VIP protection, especially that one of Rigathi Gachagua in his present form and that of Professor Abraham Kindiki, Abraham Kidure Kindiki. We are going to study that. But in the process, I may talk about things that are constitutional. I may talk about some things which are legal, but understand that I am a security expert, especially in the VIP protection. I want to give my picture of what security is, especially in such a situation. I've just watched, before I left my house, I just watched Dunston Omar say that the intention of Gashagua's team and the so-called related teams is to go round circles up to until the next general election. Actually, he used 3 years. So, touching on that, I think 3 years is too ambitious. It is too ambitious because if things go well for Gachagua, he would want to play the theaters in a high court. After playing the theater in high court, that is why you see his team complaining about the haste, how everything is being done in a hurry. To them, they don't want anything to be done in a hurry because according to Danson Omari, they want to take the whole theater for 3 years. Now, if it goes slowly the way they want, the case will go to whoever wins, because one side must win. This is a case where they call it ADR, alternative dispute resolution. Alternative dispute resolution usually wants to a win-win situation. But in this particular case, one side must lose. Now, whichever side loses, they will go to Court of Appeal. And whichever side loses on Court of Appeal, they'll go to Supreme Court. Once they go to Supreme Court, just supposing, the Supreme Court decides that Gachagua was wrongly impeached. So they declare the impeachment null and void. It means that is impeachment that did not happen. Remember cases like Kina Mwangaza. There is the former governor for Embu, Kanywa. Those are the governors I know who have undergone several impeachment. It goes to the full length and the governor wins the case. So what happens is that the assembly is barred. The assembly is barred from impeaching him again or her again for 6 months. They are barred from impeaching for 6 months because the case went full force and the governor won. That is why kina Kanywambora, kina Mwangaza have had several impeachment moves. The same applies to the president and deputy president. Now, if the Supreme Court decides, that the impeachment was null and void, it doesn't, I mean, you see the points they are saying. Public opinion, public participation was little and very quick and it was done on weekends and such a thing, and people did not even understand things. Supposing they do that and they win, what happens is that it is declared null and void. And null and void means it never happened in the first place. So the Supreme Court has decided it never happened, for if it was supposed to happen, it should have gone A, B, C, D. For example, public participation is supposed to have taken 1 week. Before the public participation, people are not supposed to be given forms to fill in and whatever. People are supposed to have town hall type of me, blah, 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 blah. Just mention very, very few. What the other party will do, will take that as a textbook. Public participation 1 week, we place it 10 days. Blah, 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 blah. The cases were supposed to be completed in 60 days. They'll go through that. So that when you go for a second complaint again, you'll find that you have no case. Because that is what the Rigathi Gachagua team wants. They want it to happen that way. Then a second impeachment happens, and it just becomes a daily event of impeachment throughout the 3 years. But then that is legal, that is constitutional. I am an expert in security matters, especially the VIP protection. This is what is going to happen. First of all, we have somebody called presidential escort commandant. Presidential escort commandant. The name suggests that he is in charge of the security of the president. That was in the last constitution. In the 2010 constitution, his mandate was widened. Remember, in the last constitution, the vice president was also the minister for home affairs. And home affairs then included Kenya prisons. So, the security of the vice president during those days used to be the security of the Kenya prisons were the ones who were looking into the security of the vice president. That was then. Now with the new constitution, the deputy president has no ministry. Actually, the deputy president is within the presidency. That is why you saw a problem when Ruto, as the deputy president, his security at first he was being guarded by wreck company, but he was replaced by AP. Why was he replaced by AP? Because somebody read the the laws of Kenya and even the constitution. Lawyers just read the part that fits that favors their client. Just like even in the Bible, you find a pastor reading a verse that will only be beneficial to his preaching, what he has decided to preach for that day. Another pastor would use another whatever to preach. Now, what Uhuru did, he went to the National Police Service. There is a department within the administration police called CIPU. That is protection, or it is protection for government installations. I'm trying to recall its full name, but yeah, it is critical. C is critical infrastructure protection unit. So critical infrastructure, it includes even the vice president's residence. And that is why when the National Assembly called Matiang'i, the then Minister for Internal Security, to ask him to elaborate why is it that the deputy president has two residences, the one at Karen and another one in Mombasa. He asked how comes that the two places are not guarded by a rec company, whereas it is part of the presidency. And Matiang'i came out with the Kenya Gazette, which gazetted all state houses and lodges in Kenya to be protected by the rec company and presidential escort. So what Matiang'i was telling them that on that very same day, if they would have passed a law that said that the vice president's residence in Karen and in Mombasa should both be considered as part of the state houses and state lodges. He would the following day, but nobody did that because most of us we play to the gallery. Now now the new constitution says the deputy president is part of the presidency, and so security of the deputy president and former vice presidents who are leaving. Who are they? There is Kalonzo Musyoka. No, there is Mudi Awori. Then there is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Those are the living deputy heads of state. Their security is taken care of by the head of the presidential escort services, the commandant. Again, the commandant of the presidential security services, the presidential escort, he is in charge of security of all living ex-presidents. All living ex-presidents. Currently, we have only one living ex-president, that is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. The presidential escort commandant is also in charge of security of the current deputy president. Now, who is the current deputy president? We will come to that. And of course, he is in charge of security of VIPs of a certain level and above. For example, heads of government and heads of state. If they come, it is upon the commandant of the presidential escort to take care of their security. Now, how is security of somebody determined? How is security of somebody determined? There are two ways. Where you come from may be risky. Take an example that you come from areas that are Goroko, Shifta, Al-Shabaab, whatever. Then your place has to be more guarded than, let's say, somebody who comes from Funyula or even Kwakina Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. So where you stay, how you interact and whatever, and if you are active in politics, you may understand if Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka has more security than Mudi Awori, because Mudi Awori is no longer, he doesn't attend public meetings, he doesn't do whatever. So there are those things that they do consider. First of all, they have to consider the position. Let's say that they say, okay, former deputy president or vice president is needed 7 guards or something like that. But because Mudi Awori is not so active and whatever, and usually is indoors, we will give him 5. Kalonzo Musyoka, because he's always in public meetings and something or whatever, we will give him. So there is the commandant of presidential escort has a leeway to vary the things up and down depending on your security threat and your activity. If you are somebody who stays in the house and just has a walk for 3 or 4 hours and then you go back to the house, your security is not as risky as Kalonzo Musyoka who attends Maandamano. I hope you understand there. That is what happened. Before I even go to security of the two people, Kindiki and Gachagua, I wanted to say this thing. Kenya, we like what do you call sarakasi. Kenya, we like sarakasi because you remember when Kibaki took over, there were several rollies that went to his Kibera residence. Cameramen were called there, the press was called there, and we had so many GSU entering the lorries, and they left a private security company to guard that place. And the people from Kibra were there cheering that Moi's security has been withdrawn. That same night, another team of the normal GSU came to guard that place. And they have been guarding that place until the time when Moi died. So this figurative withdrawal, sometimes let us understand. When Gachagua was admitted in Karen Hospital, his security was withdrawn. Those who are visiting Karen Hospital would notice that the security which was hanging around and you could see him leaving. And he's a king of drama. Him leaving, going to a private vehicle. You can remember the day he boarded an aeroplane to Mombasa. But then these things are done because anything happening to him today, even after he hands over, his security will be there for life. So some things are being done for us just to see, for us just to comment. I want to lastly talk about security of both the Rigathi Gachagua and Abraham Kithure Kindiki. As we speak now, at the time of recording this tape, Kindiki was the deputy president nominee. Deputy president nominee. That is why the Senate called him to address issues of security. He could not go because he is no longer the Minister for Internal Security. What is the definition of deputy president nominee? Deputy president nominee is, when we had the elections, Ruto was the deputy president. Uhuru was the president. And during the campaign time, there was security. Now, it is a bit somehow imekorogwa, imechanganywa, but let me try to explain. We had several people who were on the ballot paper. Of course, you do not expect a presidential candidate like Inspector Wajakoya having the same security as presidential candidate Raila Amolo Odinga. The reason is, from a security perspective, Raila, during the campaign time, he was more at risk than Wajakoya. Why? Raila was a former prime minister. Raila has a religious, or can I say had? I don't know, but let me put it this way. Raila has a religious followings. So if anybody who is anti-Kenya goes and harms him, you see, by the time his followers believe that it was just an outsider who did so, the country would have burned a lot. So during the campaign, the presidential escort commander does a lot of mathematics left and right. Yes, we have so many people on the ballot paper who are presidential candidates, and each needs security. One of them, William Samoei Arap Ruto, is the sitting deputy president. Another one Raila Amolo Odinga has both religious followers. At the same time, he is a former prime minister and such and such. And you find that their running mate, a person like Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, was the running mate for Raila. No, not this time. Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka was not. It was Martha Karua. Now, Martha Karua was the running mate. She was already a former minister for security, for, for, for constitutional affairs. You cannot compare her security at that time with the security of the lady, I can't even recall her name, who was Inspector Wajakoya's running mate. So there was these things that they do, whatever. And then this security goes on until the swearing in day. Swearing in day. Because a person like Raila has security in his capacity as a former prime minister. He has security for life. Of course, his security, immediately he is elected as African Union Council chairman, his security ceases. It is upon the African Union Council now to address his security issues. When they address his security issue, they may use the local security, but they will pay for it. A good example I'll give you. You remember when Mama Sarah died? There was a police station in her home, and immediately she died, the police station was dismantled and moved away. The American government had approached the Kenya government saying that this is a beloved grandmother, step grandmother of the president of the USA. Anybody harming her would have harmed the security of the USA. Then later, when Obama ceased being the president, her status changed from that to the status of this is a step grandmother. Can I use a simpler language? A very close relative of the former president, whom, if her security is compromised, then it touches on, even on the CIA. So that is how it is. Once Raila becomes the AUC chairman, he may use our rec company, he may use GSU and so on. But it will be that AUC has hired, just like you, if you want a police officer to be guarding your home, you go to the police station and fill in forms that are called the relevant forms. Just go there, you fill in the forms, they tell you this is how much you'll be paying, and people will start saying, hey, kumbe kwa Lando siku hizi anachungwa na armed police in uniform with a G3. So when you see, after Raila has been installed as AU chairman, you may see Kenyan police with the Kenyan police uniform, but they'll be guarding him, being hired by African Union Council. Now we come to the two. As we are today, Rigathi Gachagua has been impeached. He is no longer the deputy president. He will become a deputy president if the Supreme Court declares that the impeachment null and void. What does null and void mean? It means that there was no impeachment in the first place. Which means they will, as I've said before, they will say because you didn't do this, public participation should have taken. So those who want to impeach him will now use that. Have you said that public participation should be 7 days? Now we are going for 10 days. Did you say that we should have town hall meetings? They'll make sure that, so that it should, because even after second impeachment, Gachagua will still go back to court. Take it from me. Now, he will continue that way, but you see, if he goes back to court, it will go to Supreme Court, and if it goes to Supreme Court, the Supreme Court will be told by the government that you told us that the period we gave out for public participation was less. We even gave more than whatever. So that is when, just like we had, was it 2017, when NASA went back to the Supreme Court. They won the first case, but the second case they lost. So something like that. And then he is supposed to have security. He is supposed to have security. I can say here without any fear of contradiction that it was wrong for his security to be completely withdrawn. Completely withdrawn. He may not go to the office. He may not even fly the flag, and so on and so on. But his security is supposed to be on that level up to the day. His security is supposed to be on the level of a deputy president up to the day that a new occupier of that office is sworn in. Immediately that person is sworn in, security-wise, his security is lowered. It is reduced to the level of former vice presidents for the rest of his life. And as I've said, we never know about Kenyan system. Maybe just like what they did to Moi, that Kibaki government withdrew all security from Kibra, and then that very same night they brought in a lesser security. So people are saying, amenyang'anywa security, sasa ni watchmen wanachunga huko. If that is not happening, because I have no access to the government, he's supposed to have a complete deputy president security up to the time the other one is sworn in, however long it will take. As for Professor Abraham Kindiki Kidhuri, is it Abraham Kidhuri Kindiki? He is now a deputy president nominee. You see, immediately Ruto and Gachagua were elected, Ruto ceased being the deputy president and he became president-elect. He was going to be the president because he had been elected. And that is what happened to him in 2013 and 2017. He was the deputy president-elect until he was sworn in. And so is Gachagua. Gachagua was the deputy president-elect from the time when Azimio exhausted the Supreme Court's cases. He became the substantive deputy president-elect. But with Kindiki, his is a bit different because the vacancy has occurred in the deputy president's place. How does the vacancy occur? We have seen it can occur during impeachment. It occurs when the holder of the seat resigns. It occurs when the holder of the position dies, and so on and so on. Or even it occurs when the deputy president ascends to the position of the president when the vacancy is there on the president. And then that deputy president will now appoint, will nominate another deputy president. So whoever is taken as a deputy president, when the presidency is vacant and the deputy president ascends to the presidency, or the vacancy occurs in the deputy president's position and somebody is nominated there. That person is nominated there. Immediately he gets the parliamentary clearance. He becomes a deputy president nominee. Immediately, you may have noticed that the speaker immediately after, he said that now Kindiki is the deputy president nominee. He's now the deputy president nominee. So he'll become the deputy president nominee up to the time when he will be sworn in as a deputy president, or vitu vichenjanga. Rigathi Gachagua wins the Supreme Court and there is no need of even re-impeaching him and whatever. And the security of the vice president, deputy president nominee should be like that one of a vice president nominee until such a time that he is sworn in. And then Gashagua's security is downgraded to that one of a former deputy head of state. Thank you.